Today we're in Greenville, Pennsylvania, and right in front of you is the ex-Bessemer and Lake Erie Roundhouse. But today we'll not be focusing on the shops or the roundhouse at Greenville, but something that's sitting next to the roundhouse. It's a locomotive that railfans love to catch on the Bessemer and Lake Erie, and it's the only Bessemer and Lake Erie engine on Bessemer and Lake Erie property. I'm of course talking about Bessemer and Lake Erie 878. Bessemer and Lake Erie 878 is one of the only two SD38-2s still on the property. The other SD38-2 on the property isn't even originally Bessemer and Lake Erie. In fact, it's DM&IR, and I'm of course talking about 862. 862 needs its own video, so I won't be talking about it here. 878 was built brand new for the Bessemer and Lake Erie in 1973 by Electric Motive Division. 878 would do what Bessemer units do best: haul ore from Conneaut to North Bessemer, and then from North Bessemer back to Conneaut. It was smooth sailing on the Bessemer and Lake Erie up until 2004, when Canadian National would acquire the Bessemer and Lake Erie. Not many changes would happen at first, but slowly over time, Bessemer and Lake Erie units would start to disappear, and Canadian National ones would take their place. But for right now, Bessemer and Lake Erie 878 was still running its ore trains south of Conneaut. And it would stay that way until 2010, when 878 would move to Homewood, Illinois. Although the Bessemer and Lake Erie is isolated from the rest of the Canadian National system, power rotation still happens quite frequently. This picture taken in Homewood, Illinois, shows the power rotation on Canadian National, including some units from the British Columbia Railway and Wisconsin Central, both Canadian National roads. 878 would retain its class lights until 2013, when the Homewood shops took them out and replaced them with steel plates. Another Homewood shops replacement is the red door seen by the 878 on the engineer's side. Even though 878 was taken off Bessemer property, it would still be in the company of other Bessemer and Lake Erie engines, seen here in Griffith, Indiana, with a Bessemer and Lake Erie tunnel motor. 878 would also get itself in some pretty interesting lash-ups, seen here with an XGT unit, leading long hood forwards. In 2019, Bessemer and Lake Erie 878 would get to do something it hasn't done in a really long time. It would finally get to go back to original Bessemer and Lake Erie trackage. 878 would usually get stuck on the miss job, miss standing for miscellaneous, but in this amazing video by Bessemer and Lake Erie 902, we can see Bessemer 878 run an ore train south out of Conneaut. I would truly like to thank Bessemer and Lake Erie 902 for providing me this footage of 878. His channel will be linked in the description below. 878 would unfortunately not spend too much time on the Bessemer, as it was sent back towards Indiana and Chicago. 878 would continue its local and yard job operations near Gary, Indiana, until 2023. Due to more power rotation on the Canadian National, Bessemer and Lake Erie SD38AC 868 was moved off the property, and 878 took its place. 878 would pick up right where 868 left off, running the miss job, here seen by JTR Bricks Rail Fanning. And the day before I got to see 878 myself, my good friend Anthony, also known as Northern Ohio Rail Fanning Productions, caught 878 running the miss the day before I got there. Now with this most recent catch of 878, let's get back to present day in Greenville. After 878 got done running the mist job the day before, they were seen here idling in the Greenville locomotive shops. If we get a closer look at the cab, 878 can surely show its age. A lot of rust on top of the nose, and the once red door near the engineer's side is now just gray primer. Some features you can see were clearly added by Canadian National, such as the yellow safety striping in the ditch lights. Obviously, back in 1973, 878 was not ordered with ditch lights. Even though most Bessemer and Lake Erie engines fade off into existence or leave the property, 878 for right now is still there. Other than the Canadian National added features, 878 is a time capsule of the original Bessemer and Lake Erie before the Canadian National ownership in 2004. Even though the roundhouse and the locomotive shops are still standing, Bessemer and Lake Erie 878 will always be a true part of the Bessemer and Lake Erie's history.